as a man comes to Yada and to Ginosko, his father in heaven, God's presence will become the most essential place in his life, because in his presence is fullness of joy, instruction, correction, and peace that passes all human understanding. When a man truly makes Eden a place he lives, he understands that without the presence of God, he has no purpose, no direction, no good use. With that understanding, he will become a God-approved man. So we maintain Eden by our recognition, by our sacrifice, by our rest. So those three things, our faith, because our faith, our recognition of who God is and who he needs to be to us, will cause us to take that journey of faith. It will cause us to sacrifice, and the promises that God gives to us will give us the joy that gives us the strength. Because remember, if you need strength, you need joy. The joy of the Lord is our strength. So we maintain Eden by these three key things, and there's probably other things, but these are just three things I've identified that helps us to maintain Eden. It is, like I said, recognizing you need God. We talked about dependence. Paul understood that I need to totally depend on God for everything that I'm doing. And so you maintain Eden out of not duty, out of necessity. You see, if we are not doing anything, if we are not working, if we are not actively on the journey, then we don't need to maintain Eden. Because what do we need Eden for? We don't need a word from God. If we're not trying to I don't know, to say, if you're a father, how can you not maintain Eden? You've got all of this responsibility. But if you're a single man, God has so much work. Remember, he said to Jeremiah, I want to show you some secret things. Jeremiah wasn't allowed to get married or to even go to funerals. So for the single man, it's not that the single man don't have work. Single man has work. And we actually, as single men, have more time to be in the secret place. And married men are actually frequently jealous of single men, because they remember the time they had in Eden when God would just say, go here, go there, jump on this bus, go to that country, go to this place. So Eden is maintained out of necessity. It becomes like a need for daily bread, because you've actually spent enough time there to know that I only have purpose. So let me read this again. When a man truly makes Eden a place he lives, he understands that without the presence of God, he has no purpose, no direction, no God use. With that understanding, he will become a God-approved man. This is what helps me to maintain Eden, because without God's presence, I don't have a purpose. I have no direction. I have no good use. I have no word for anyone. I'll give you an example. You see my prayer board up there. On Thursdays, it says requests, and it said sphere of influence. Now, I need to keep it up, but I started to ask people if they have prayer requests, send them to me on Thursday. But even though I've stopped doing that, I still pray for people in my sphere of influence. So that would be people maybe who are a part of YAM or friends. And I find that on a Thursday, if I pray for people, if I make that my day of, not that I don't intercede on any other days, but if I make that my purposeful day of intercession, God will either direct me to pray for someone specifically, and or he will give me a word for them. I don't want to expose, I'm not trying to expose, but someone on the line, I said to them last week, did you have have you had like a difficult week this week? Now that person knows who they are. That came because on Thursday, where I purposely go to the part of, my personal Eden where I need to speak to God about other people, God showed me that. And so that's why I contacted them. The journey with God gives you these type of things. I am not telling anyone to go and do what I'm doing. I'm saying God has that for you in your own way. I don't know how it might be. Like I always say, if I want a word, if I can't pray, I'll go in my bath. I run a hot bath and I'll be praying within 5 or 10 minutes. I'll be fine. I can't tell you that's what you need to do for you. I can only tell you that when you are in relationship with God, you will have that experience in your own way. And so the maintaining Eden is a part of life, because without it, you just feel like you're nothing. I feel like if I'm not just in the last, it's the last few months have been so hard. My routine has been messed up, and some weeks I'm not reading as much as I should, and some weeks I'm not getting devotion as much as I just don't feel balanced and centered. And you know what's talking about centered and balanced? No, that for me is when I'm in right relationship with God. When I know I've spent enough time in Eden and I can feel it. Just like if you don't eat enough food, you feel hungry. It really is almost a physical experience. I remember one pastor saying, Darby actually, he's like, sometimes God wakes up in the morning and the first thing you do is go and eat. He's like, no, your body's, God is really telling you to pray. But your flesh is telling you to eat. But actually, a lot of these times, God wants you to pray. Like, when you maintain Eden, when you understand without Eden, there's no purpose, there's no direction. Like, what did Adam have if there was no Eden? If there was no tree of life? Like, if he wasn't eating from the tree of life, if he wasn't in fellowship with God, what would he have done? Just sat there and looked, oh, this is a nice garden. We must be in perpetual union with God. That gives us everything we need. So, back to Abraham. Genesis.